Before we get into spoilers then,
Yeah.
let's just give our basic...
Really basic thoughts.
Just, did you like it?
No.
Neither did I.
Absolutely hated it.
I wouldn't say I absolutely hated it. I dislike it.
Sure.
Dislike it, but I think deep down, like deep down, there's a good movie in there.
Yes.
There's interesting ideas.
I agree.
It looks nice.
Well, I also disagree at the same time.
It looks nice.
It looks nice.
Florence Pugh carries the fucking thing on her shoulders.
She does.
Like, she's amazing in it. But, the movie we got is a fucking mess. And it's tough to talk about without spoiling it, because it hinges so much on where it goes by the end. But then where it goes by the end is horrible.
Yeah. Just kind of not to do with the plot. I thought it kind of failed as a thriller.
Yeah.
It being thrilling. No, but generally the thrills and the scares, if you want to dive into horror territory.
It's like vague horror, but I'd argue I'd say it's horror. It's horror adjacent.
Yeah, the hallucinations.
Yeah.
Are all very nonsensical. Silly. That's my word of the day today with this film. Silly. Yeah. Everything about the film was silly.
My words for this film is shallow.
Yeah. Which, weirdly enough, is also related to another film starring a singer, in which they put a really good performance in.
Oh my god. I took like a good minute to get started. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Look at
that.
Yeah.
Look at that. How everything comes around.
But no, I think there are certain films, especially certain thrillers, that pull silly off. M. Night Shyamalan, for instance. Malignant. Smile looks like it might be in that same kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But this movie didn't, because I think it's a film that's very self-serious, very much thinks it's smart, thinks it's very clever, obviously has something it wants to say.
Yeah.
Kind of says it,
but it's very vague.
Says it, but I don't think it adds anything to the
It's like they've got like what they want to say.
Yeah.
They say it, but it doesn't really serve the story or anything. It just kind of it goes, okay, we say it, and then we just kind of move on. And it's like, okay, now let's do the funky, like, thriller, Hitchcockian-esque kind of movie.
Yeah.
Which fails.
And anytime they try to do a scare, or honestly anything at all, there's the score, which they do a lot, and it never gets annoying. Never ever. Love it every time they do it.
Every time they do it.
Trust me.
I will say with that, I am
like it the first time.
I like parts of the score, and I do think the score sometimes does come in quite nicely in certain scenes, but then in other scenes it's way too much. Like
the film needed more silence.
My biggest problem with a lot of the sound design, as much as I do think overall there's some really strong stuff in it, I don't like the fact that the first 20 minutes they play like 10 different
It does feel like Olivia Wilde
and
just played a playlist.
Yeah, and it's just constant. It's like it's like because the best way to describe it is the 2016 Suicide Squad movie.
Yes.
Where it constantly was going track because it was edited by a fucking trailer company.
No, exactly.
Which is like, that's all they know how to do, is just, and it's like, and it's frustrating because it's like, it's not that those parts are bad, it's just way too much. It's like, let it breathe, let the film, it's okay to have a scene where instead of having, a 50s track, put in like the score, or put in, or put in like jazz or whatever.
Yes.
So make it a more low-key scene or something, just to calm it down for a minute.
There was one scene where it's Florence Pugh and Harry Styles, and they're like arguing, but then they start talking about how much they love each other, which is most scenes in the film. And they start talking about it, and it's silent, and then the score comes in, and it is the most overly saccharine score possible. It's so overly emotional, tugging at the heartstrings, to the point of, again, being silly.
It tries really hard, and as well, it kind of reminds me a little bit of, like, say, like, it reminds me a little bit of, like, the score for, like, Jordan Peele movies.
Yes.
Where, like, they use very similar things, but it's a lot of, like, sort of voices going like ha 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 he, like doing all like that, and it's like, and that's the thing, it's like that can work. I've made plenty of scores that incorporate that stuff, and it sounds excellent. Like it can work really well, and it can create like a really interesting atmosphere. I think the problem is, and it's probably the best way to like describe Don't Worry Darling is, Don't Worry Darling is a film. It's like a mix of films that you've seen that have done this thing way better. It's Get Out. It's, you know,
every episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah, it's Get Out. It's Black Mirror. It's The Twilight Zone. It's The Stepford Wives. It's fucking like, I don't know. It's like a Hitchcock film. It's like, you know, it's so many different things.
Kind of going to what you're saying about the score used in Jordan Peele movies. I think the big difference for me with how Jordan Peele uses that compared to how Olivia Wilde uses it is it feeling earned. When it's, you know, I think stuff like that, especially that score, to make it feel scary, it has to feel. It has to be. You can't let that score carry it.
So because Jordan Peele uses like his scores in his movies to create atmosphere. To create atmosphere and to create tension, create excitement, to create like all of these different things. Olivia Wilde uses it, I guess, for tension, but the problem is she uses it. That chooses the same repetitive sound so many times that by the time you get to like the sixth scene of Florence Pugh looking at something weird, and then you start hearing like ha ha he like do all these sounds, like it's like you start going, all right, okay, so this is okay. Like it gets tired by like by like an hour into the film. It like you find like it's very repetitive.
It does feel like Olivia Wilde or whoever wrote it, whoever had the original idea, came up with a really cool concept for a mystery. Essentially a cool concept for a Black Mirror episode. Came up with a really cool this idea of what if there was like a weird town, or you know, a weird like secluded society, you know, The Village-esque. But it's people, you know, it's like a 50s environment with men and their, you know, housewives.
And it's very much like going back to that sort of like what like a man and a woman should have been.
So because there's nothing past that, it doesn't have anything to allude to. It doesn't have anything to build towards.
It doesn't have anything to really say.
No.
No, exactly. It has nothing to say.
It's a 2-hour-long film that is an hour and a half spent of Florence Pugh. Something's wrong, and she never clocks onto something,
and it never feels like it progresses. Like there's this like
she just figures it out.
It doesn't go from like little things,
and she doesn't even figure it out. She remembers. She just goes, oh shit, wait, that's the twist.
No, it's weird because it's like I noticed like I think like to me like I think the biggest problem the film has, besides its this general narrative, is the pacing of it.
Yes.
Because I think it moves way too fast. Because by the time Florence Pugh goes into, you know, like the whoa, what's going on, it doesn't get like bigger. It starts big. And it just stays there, where it's like, I think it would have went a long way if it started with loads of little things. Whereas like, you know, like, say like in the trailer, for example, like the part with the wall, where like the wall like crushes in on it. To me, that's like one of the first things that like happens to it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And it's like, what? Like, but then like a thing of like, I don't know, like here like in the water.
Yes.
Say here like here in the bath. That should be like. That's like one of the last major things that like happens. It's so weird how the way it's like paced, where it seems to it doesn't ramp up. It just starts there and then it struggles.
The problem is none of these scares are, and you can argue, oh well, they're hallucinations, so they don't need to be, but they don't work because, in my opinion, they're not grounded in any kind of reality. Not even in the film's version of reality.
They just
happen.
Yeah, it's just and that's why and that's kind of the big problem with the film, is how shallow it is.
No, exactly.
There's all of these different things, which visually some of it looks really cool. The film looks really nice visually, but the problem is that it's visual nothingness. It's like it doesn't mean anything, because then you see these things like you see, you know, like the dancers that like have like fucked up like faces and stuff. And you see that in the trailer where it's like the black and white, you know.
What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't go anywhere. It's just a visual that it feels designed for trailers.
Yes.
But then in the movie itself,
cling film.
there's no meaning. Yeah.
The whole
cling
rapping
film
ahead
scene.
in
Yeah.
cling film, it didn't make sense in the trailers, and it doesn't make sense in the film.
It just happens.
It just happens.
And then
The eggs.
yeah.
She smashes, like, she breaks the eggs, and there's nothing
I guess
inside.
with that one, that's just to show it. Nothing is as it seems.
No, but why would there be
I
a
guess.
batch of eggs that doesn't have yolk in it when every other batch of eggs does?
And like and then it's
The thing is I think the problem with this film is
Yeah.
you think about it for more than 2 seconds.
Yeah.
In the entirety of the first
that's
part.
and that's the thing is that's the big problem with it.
It's a film designed for shock value.
It's a film that I think is designed for that, but also to be on like TikTok one day.
Exactly.
I'd be like, hey, ever seen Don't Worry Darling?
Yeah.
Here's this film, and then like you'll show a couple of visuals in
Yeah.
a TikTok, and then people will go, wow, I should watch
You're
that.
completely right about the whole trailer visual.
Yeah.
Because
The whole thing is
stuff like breaking an egg and there's nothing inside. Cool trailer visual. Put that in context in the
That's
rest
what
of the film.
and that's one thing I
Nothing.
noticed is like a lot of the visuals in the movie are in the trailer. And
Yeah.
it's like almost pretty much nearly everything.
All the
is
scares
there.
get spoiled.
Yeah, every single like Florence Pugh moment where she's like all these like hallucinations or whatever, they're in the trailer, and it's like it's frustrating because it's like so what like
Yeah.
it's like okay it's in the trailer, which is cool, but that's what the problem with the film is. It feels like it's a trailer,
It is, yeah. No.
and it's like it
Should we
doesn't
talk
make
about some of the twists then? Well, the twist then.
Okay, yeah, spoilers.
So, spoilers territory. So the twist is, it was all VR. Kind of. So basically it's a simulation created by Frank, we think.
Created by someone.
Also, the fact that his name is Frank really doesn't help sell this. Created by Chris Pine's character, who obviously believes in control and order, and believes that his woman should be controlled, I guess. And
He's basically Andrew Tate.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so he builds his
Yeah.
army of incels.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Styles is one of those incels.
Yes.
And neckbeard ponytail Harry Styles, who obviously plays D&D.
Plays D&D. Probably plays Genshin Impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Probably watches One
I think he
Piece.
had like big James Bond posters. It was
He has like a From Russia with Love poster.
Yeah.
For some reason.
And I guess the whole maybe that's why he wanted to be British. He loves James Bond. Who knows? So basically he joins this victory program, which is essentially just a way of kidnap. It's a VR game where you kidnap your wife, you pin her to a bed, and you force her to constantly be in this VR simulation of a 50s world.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense when I say it out loud, and it barely makes sense in the movie.
When it comes up in the movie. So right before the film came out, I remember there was a few videos that came out of like leaks of Don't Worry Darling, and I skimmed through them, and I saw like one clip of like Harry Styles in a beard. I was like, oh, okay. So I saw that, like, so I stopped watching, like, because I didn't really see anything else. But in my head, when I saw that, I was like thinking, like, oh, okay. So is this like a simulation? That was kind of like what I saw. Like, oh, okay. And I was like, now I've seen a movie that came out 2019, I think, with Matthew McConaughey.
Okay.
That did something similar, and that movie is also fucking stupid. Now that wasn't. I don't think that was necessarily a simulation, but it was like a literal video game.
Yeah.
Like there's a kid in that movie that makes a game, and like Matthew McConaughey's in like a video game world. It's fucking stupid, but like, and this is kind of what it reminds me of, where it's like it just feels so like out of nowhere, and it's like what?
Well, it is because
it's like
the film sets up a lot of mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
There's the mystery of where do they all go in the day, like where what do they do for work.
Yeah.
There's what's the earthquakes, what's the deal with them, what was the deal with the plane crash, why is she wrapping cling film around her head.
There's a lot of questions, and then the film just kind of
doesn't answer any of them, and
it
it answers a mystery that we didn't realize was a mystery.
It just goes to the twisty stuff, and then hopes that you don't think about those other questions that you may have.
Exactly.
Like but what about this? They hope that you forget all that, so you'll go and focus on
a lot
the
of
twist.
the movie is red herrings.
Mm-hmm. And it's like
which are again.
It just feels like a waste of yeah. It just feels like a waste of time. Yeah. Where it's like, okay, so you got all of these different things, all these different questions, all these different characters who, you know, go from like, you know, loving this place and thinking it's great, and then all of a sudden, they're like, oh wait, no, I'm awake now.
No, exactly.
Like Chris Pine randomly gets like stabbed by his wife,
which I think is not that. It's not because she's suddenly awake. I think it's because she wants control now, but then they never follow that up.
But that's and that's the problem. It's like they don't even make that really that clear.
Yeah.
So it's like it just happens, and you're like,
I will always have problems with films that expect the viewer to write 20 pages of the script for themselves in order for it to make sense.
Yeah. You've got to like be like, well, no, but like, you know, it's like, because that's the thing. If the film doesn't show you that, or at least gives you that idea, gives you you know a bit of rope to get like to, you know to attach yourself to, then
what can
it
you
doesn't
do?
mean anything. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, because it's like I could be like I could write a movie and then have a character do this, and it was, you know, and like there's nothing in the film that sort of says, but then I could be like, oh well, actually at this moment you were thinking that.
Yeah,
you were thinking this thing, and I was like, okay, I can say that, but if I don't really show that, or you know, show anything to the audience that shows that character may be thinking this, or have the narrative, it's like, well then it's like, okay, there's just nothing there. Like it just ends up being like, okay, so someone's gotta like listen to what I have to say and then not just absorb the film. And manage to make up, you know, like get that interpretation like themselves. I have to tell them that, and I feel that's what's gonna happen with this film, where a lot of people are gonna see it, and then maybe like Olivia Wilde or something will do like interview. I will basically explain the entire movie. But it's like, but that doesn't. But that will retroactively make it. That will make it a good movie. That'll just make it go, okay. It's like, why wasn't that in the film then?
Yes.
I am convinced there's got to be. I do think there's like 20 minutes of the film that's missing.
No, absolutely, that has to be, because so much of the film just doesn't exist. Weirdly, it's mad. And some of the stuff in the film, I don't think. I genuinely think this feels like a first draft.
Yeah.
Which we say quite a bit. But it did. It felt like a film that was just written. It never felt like it was gone back to. It was just a stream of thought of, what if earthquakes? What if this? And then what if it was VR?
I did read that so the writers of this film, I believe Olivia Wilde got the script for it, and like she wasn't involved with it, but then she rewrote it, and I don't know what she added to it.
Earthquakes.
But I don't know what like she necessarily included, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is just like a shaky script that I guess she tried to save, but then
it doesn't feel like there was anything there. You know what I mean? Everything was. Again, it's just shock value. The entire film is shock value. It's all about, can we get the biggest reaction out of the audience with this twist?
Yeah.
Can we, if like, you know, it feels like a TV show on its last legs.
Yeah, it feels like desperate to keep your attention the entire time. It feels like it's like, oh, you know, like, what if this happens? What if like this character, like, you know, what if like, I don't know, like what if like
Florence Pugh walk in the middle of a desert to try and save some plane survivors by herself miles away?
And it's also like, why, like, and why is there a plane in the first place?
Why is exactly. Why is there a plane?
Why is there a plane?
Surely
why
that's just, like, you can't even argue that's a bug in the VR, because surely that would take extra to program. Like the earthquakes, I can maybe understand as bugs in the VR, but why a plane crash?
Like, how long was she in it?
Yeah.
As well, like they don't even really.
They do say how long is she.
Oh, do they? How long?
If you assume that the time in the VR is the same time in real life, then it's meant to be about. I think they say at the very beginning it's day 997.
Oh, so she's been in it for like that
3
long?
years, yeah. About. Which then, of course, raises the question of how do her parents not know? How is the police not come? How is she able to? How would they be able to keep her there for that? And I'm not even beginning to question how is she surviving as a human, because obviously, you know, she needs to like eat, drink, all that stuff.
I know. There's that shot where like doesn't he like put like water or something in her mouth?
Probably.
But it was like drops. Like it wasn't like you know.
Like how is she eating? There's a lot. That's the problem with the film. there's a lot of questions, no answers.
Yeah,
the twist raises more questions.
You leave the film not really satisfied because you kind of just the film just ends.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, okay.
I would genuinely have preferred it if she just took a car out of the place and it turned out it was just a bloody, you know what I mean? And it was just normal society on the other end. And she just went to normal society and she was like, I don't know, had like her memory erased or something.
It's just like, I do think deep down there's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
There. It's just, when it gets to
way too overcomplicated.
When it gets to like the VR stuff, it gets like extremely silly.
Yeah.
Like it all of a sudden, it's like, you know, you've got like Olivia Wilde going like, if you die like in the VR world, you die in the real world. And it's like, what
that
the
is hilarious.
Yeah, it's like, what
That's
the fuck?
So funny.
It's like such a stupid line. It's like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Like, where, like, cause okay, like, yes, they foreshadow it, but foreshadowing's not just showing brief flashes of Harry Styles' face or like
and then there's shit like, why did he get a promotion?
Yeah.
For a job he doesn't have.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Why, like, yeah, it's like, why...
What did Frank mean when he said, oh, we did it, you know, I mean, in the bedroom?
You see, one thing...
What does that mean?
One way that I think could have been interested with this is if Harry Styles was the person who created it.
Sure.
And it was something like he kidnapped someone.
Yeah.
To have, you know, in his... It's better, it makes more sense, you know what I mean? You can easily connect things. Yeah. You could be like, oh, like, maybe it's a bunch of people who were in on it. Say all of these other people wanted to get into it, maybe because like, and it's you know, like I know, like, you know, like as we left, like we talked a lot about Severance.
Yes.
And it kind of has a similar thing where like Severance. There's a lot of questions with Severance, but they always find a way to answer it. So it's like, oh, like, why would all of these people want to agree to, you know, like the main premise of the show, which is your personal life and your work life are two separate things.
Yeah.
And it's like when you go to work, you're a totally different person.
Yeah.
But like
you completely understand why
your memories, but then it's like, but then the show makes a point to explain that by going, oh, it's a lot of people who are vulnerable because they suffer loss or they don't, or you know, like they get like almost brainwashed into believing it's good, and there's different things, and there's also a point in the show to sort of show like the political side of it where it's like there's people who don't want that, and it's like,
Don't Worry Darling almost touches upon that when it has Bunny's character saying about how her kids are dead and this way she has to relive her kids. And so it starts to get there,
but it's such a small point.
Yeah, it's just thrown out.
It's just like, oh well, I want this, and it felt more like kind of like something that they thought of in the moment. Yeah. Like they were filming the movie, and then they went, oh, why don't we just say this?
Yeah.
Because it's so quick and goes nowhere.
No, exactly.
Where it's like they just realised.
Which is the entire third act.
Yeah. Like chances are they had those kids there, and then they realised the plot hole, and they were like, shit, what do we do? And then someone said, oh, just say that you like, you know.
Yeah, and then it kind of, if the kids could get, you know what I mean, if the kids were created by the AI, then yeah, it could have been this cool idea of Harry Styles has created, what's the one? The USS Callister episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah, or something like that. Like, I still think the idea would be silly, but at the very least, that would be a nice way, I think, to kind of explain it all.
It would be make like, it feel a bit more thrillery.
But it's like, he created this thing, and then like maybe he kidnapped Florence Pugh, or maybe Florence Pugh was his wife or something, or whatever, and like she didn't want to be in it, or he got like a bit nuts. No, and then it's like, and maybe like Chris Pine was just what he wants to be, almost. He like created him as like a way to, you know, or what, like, there's different things that they could do. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of different avenues they could have went, but the problem is they went for, like, the weirdest, like, almost like, what the fuck is this? And it's like, and then it's like, by the time it ends, you're just like, what the fuck was that? Like, it just, the whole thing is just, it's such a whimper. It's like, and it's a shame, because I do think deep down there is, you know, it's well shot.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's well shot. Some of the sound design, when it's good, does hit. Florence Pugh's really good.
Florence Pugh's fantastic.
Like,
Chris Pine's
she's great.
Really good.
Chris Pine's pretty good in it. Like, you know, and it's like, there's good things there, which is why I can't necessarily say that I hate it, but I'm more so disappointed by it. Sure. Because, you know, which in some ways makes me feel worse about it. Because I can, that's the thing, I can just go, oh, that movie was shit, and I can just move on. But when I feel disappointing, I think about it more, because then I'm like, oh, you know what? There's probably something really good there that they can do.
I think this one's going to be hard to just get past.
Yeah.
I think this will be in a lot of people's worst of lists.
I mean,
getting
it's.
to the end of the year, because I think this will be one that sticks with people.
What's really funny about it at the end of the day is all of the controversy.
Oh yeah,
That's like nothing to do with the film.
So much.
It's all like what's around it. The film
so
itself
much
is the film.
controversy and publicity for this film. And this film, it's not even mid.
No, it's just none of it really is in the film. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like The Room.
Yes.
Say it's not like that. Harry Styles' acting's bad, but it's not like he's fucking Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah.
Like he's just a bad actor in the movie.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
There's that. Like, but the film's not terrible.
No.
But it's not good either. It
exactly.
exists in this in between space.
Yes.
Where it's like, it's one of those where
it's more disappointing than anything.
I wouldn't be surprised if most people watch it, go, yeah, I didn't like that, and then it just immediately is out the picture.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and it'll show up again where people go, remember that movie? That like
No, exactly.
was like,
Well, I can imagine a lot of people watching it going, ooh, that was pretty good, and then thinking about it and talking about it, and over the years getting more and more
going,
hated.
like sleeping on it, then realizing, or maybe someone watches a video or something.
Yeah.
And then it's like, wait,
YouTube essays will have an absolute field day with this.
Yeah, because they'll be like, because because that's the thing is like, it's no doubt like an interesting film to talk about, but it's because of how frustratingly shallow it is.
Exactly.
And how in the end it's just the movie that is just mid. It's just
that is
a total.
The saddest note